The boy with no shoes. Rain slapped the pavement in thick, angry waves as wind howled through the narrow alley behind Miller's diner. A cardboard box, soaked and crumpled, barely shielded the small boy curled up next to a dumpster. His knees were pulled to his chest, arms wrapped tightly around them. He wore no socks, no jacket, just a torn t-shirt and jeans, 2 sizes too small. His feet were bare, purple with cold. Janelle spotted him as she tossed out a bag of coffee grounds after her late shift. She stood frozen for a second, rain dripping. From the edge of her headscarf, the boy looked up, startled, hollow-eyed and quiet. He didn't beg, didn't speak, just stared. Janelle's breath caught in her throat. She worked double shifts 5 days a week, barely scraped rent, and her own daughter had a fever back at home. But right now, in this moment, none of that mattered. "Wait here," she said softly. "Don't move." He didn't respond, didn't even blink. Janelle turned and ran back inside. She didn't ask permission. She walked into the kitchen, looked at the cook, and said, "Can you make 1 more burger plate? 2 go, another pickup?" He asked. She nodded. "Yeah, I'll pay later." He sighed, but slid a fresh patty onto the grill. "You feeding another stray again, Jay?" "Maybe," she said, trying to smile. A few minutes later, with a steaming plate in her hands, she stepped back outside. The rain had lightened, but the cold hadn't. The boy was still there, still silent. She knelt beside him on the wet concrete, and set the plate down slowly, like it might scare him. "It's for you," she said gently. "It's hot, eat slowly." The boy blinked. Then his tiny hands reached for the food. He didn't say thank you, he just devoured it, like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Janelle sat beside him, letting the rain soak through her apron. Inside the diner, people peeked out the windows. Some shook their heads, a few laughed, but behind the last window, on the far end, someone else watched. A man, older, pale skin, silver hair, black coat, his face expressionless, his eyes locked on her. He wasn't looking at the boy, he was watching her, and he had been for days earlier that evening. Janelle wiped down the last table, her arms aching from 10 hours of non-stop serving. Her bra strap had snapped during the lunch rush, her shoes had a hole in them, and Randy, her manager, had just reminded her she still owed the register shortfall from last week. She hadn't taken the money, she never would. But when you're a black single mother in a mostly white town with no backup, people don't ask questions. They assume. "You can take it from my tips again," she'd muttered. Randy had shrugged. Should have been more careful. By the time she clocked out, all she wanted was to get home to her daughter Ava. The fever hadn't broken yet, and Janelle had left Tylenol under the sink with a desperate prayer. But the second she opened that back door and saw the boy again, she couldn't walk away, so she gave again. 10 minutes after she gave him the plate, she returned to find him gone. No plate, no boy, just a wet patch where he'd sat, steam still rising from the leftover food. "Hope you made it somewhere warm," she whispered. She stepped back inside, dripping cold, tired only to be met by Randy again. "You gave away another plate," he snapped. She didn't deny it. He was hungry. "That's $22.50 from your tips. I told you, I'd cover it. You'll be lucky to take anything home at all tonight." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. What was the point? Just as she turned to grab her things, the bell above the front door rang. Everyone turned. The old man from the corner walked up to the counter. His clothes looked plain, but expensive. His shoes were shined, his eyes unreadable. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. He pulled out a black card and laid it flat on the counter. "I'd like to pay for every plate she's given away this year," he said calmly. Randy scoffed. "Excuse me, this woman," the man said, pointing to Janelle. "She's fed dozens of people without asking for anything. I've seen it. Count the meals, triple the total, add interest. I'll cover it now." Everyone went silent. Janelle stared, heart thudding in her chest. Randy swallowed hard. Who are you?" But the man didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Janelle. "You don't remember me," he said. She shook her head. "But I remember you." Then he turned and walked out. No name, no contact, just gone. That night, Janelle rocked Ava to sleep on a creaky mattress in their tiny studio apartment. The fever had dropped a little. Maybe it was enough. She whispered prayers into the darkness, and then came a knock at the door. She opened it to find a man in a black suit, the same kind of man who worked for important people. He said nothing, just handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a check. $250,000. There was no signature, no return address, just a small post-it note stuck on the back. For the boy, for all the others, you never stopped giving. Now it's your turn. Janelle sank to the floor in shock. She clutched the envelope like it might vanish. Then her phone buzzed. No caller ID. One message. 2 words. He's missing. The message no one was supposed to see. Janelle stared at her phone. The 2 words glared back at her like a warning. He's missing. No name, no number, no context. Just that chilling message. She looked at Ava asleep on the couch, her forehead still warm but not burning. Janelle held her breath, then grabbed the envelope again, the check still inside, untouched. Her heart pounded. She rushed to the front door, threw it open, and looked up and down the street. But the black car from earlier was gone. No sign of anyone, only silence and rain. She stepped outside in her socks, shivering as cold water soaked through. "Hello," she called into the dark. "Who sent this?" "What do you mean he's missing?" "Nothing. Just the sound of a dog barking, somewhere far off." She went back inside, locked the door, and double-checked the windows. Then, still holding the phone, she tapped to reply. "Who is this?" "What boy?" No response. She waited 5 minutes. 10. Then her phone buzzed again. "Check the news." Her hands trembled as she opened a search tab. She typed "missing boy" and their city's name. Her breath caught. There he was, a blurry photo of the same boy she had fed, his tiny face barely visible beneath a hoodie. Flashed across the screen on a local news site. Headline: Unidentified homeless child missing. After escaping foster custody, a young boy, believed to be around 8 or 9 years old, fled from his assigned foster care group earlier this week and has not been seen since. Authorities say he has no known family, no ID, and is considered vulnerable. Witnesses last reported seeing him near Miller's Diner 2 nights ago. Her heart dropped. She whispered, "Oh my God, he was in the system." But then she froze. The photo of the boy wasn't from a traffic camera or a police file. It was taken from inside the diner, from the back, the booth in the far corner, where that man had been sitting. The next morning, Janelle didn't go to work. She didn't sleep either. Her mind kept racing. She kept thinking about the man with the silver hair, the black card, the way he said, "You don't remember me." She searched for him online but had no name, nothing to go on. She even tried reverse searching the black card bank company, but it led to private banking services for elite clients. Dead end. By 10 a.m., she bundled Ava in a blanket and took a bus to the diner. Randy gave her a dirty look as she stepped inside. "You're late. You working or just showing up for free coffee again?" "I'm looking for someone," she said. He scoffed. "You found him. He paid off your entire debt. I even gave you your tip money back. What else do you want?" "I need his name." "I don't know his name," Randy said, rolling his eyes. "He paid in full, tipped me $5,000, and walked out. I didn't exactly ask for a background check." Janelle stared at him. $5,000? "Yeah, guess some people throw money like confetti." She walked slowly toward the booth. The man used to sit in. Something about it felt different now. He had watched her from that spot, watched everything. She slid into the booth and sat for a while. The vinyl was cold, the window still foggy from the morning mist. Then she noticed something wedged between the seat and the wall, a napkin. She pulled it out. There were words scribbled in blue pen, smudged, hurried handwriting. "He's not safe, not with them. Find the park bench with the red ribbon, midnight." Janelle's breath hitched. She read it again and again, then tucked it into her coat. That night, she called her neighbor to watch Ava and took a taxi to the address of the city park near the diner. She hadn't been there in years. It was where Ava's father used to take her before. Everything fell apart. The streets were empty. The moonlight glowed faintly through thick clouds. She walked the gravel path, scanning every bench. Then she saw it, a wooden bench near the edge of the duck pond, tied around the armrest, a red ribbon. Janelle sat. The air was freezing. Her breath fogged in front of her. 5 minutes passed, then 10. No one. She began to think it was a prank, or worse, a trap. But then she heard a rustle from behind the trees. A shape emerged, slowly, carefully. It was the boy. Same eyes, same ragged hoodie, same bare feet, but this time he looked scared. Not of the cold, of something else. Janelle stood. "Oh my God, are you okay?" He said nothing. just looked behind him, as if someone had followed. She stepped forward. "I've been looking for you." "Are you?" He held up a hand and whispered, "They're watching. I can't talk long." Who's watching?" He looked up at her, eyes wide with fear. "The people who took me, the ones pretending to help." And then, without warning, he pulled something from his jacket, a small piece of paper, crumpled, wet, and shoved it into her hand. "Give this to him," he said. "Tell him I remember the house with the blue door." "What house?" Janelle asked, but he was already backing away. "They're coming," he whispered. "Tell him I remember." Before she could ask anything else, he turned and ran into the dark, and just as she turned to follow, a blinding flashlight hit her face. "Ma'am, step away from the bench." Two men in dark coats appeared from the shadows. One of them flashed a badge. "We've been tracking someone dangerous," he said. "Did you see a boy?" Janelle's heartbeat roared in her ears. She slowly slid the note into her coat pocket and shook her head. "No," she lied. "Just me." The house with the blue door. Janelle barely slept that night. She kept replaying the boy's words in her head. "Tell him I remember the house with the blue door." Who was him? What house? And most importantly, why was he so scared? Even more disturbing were the two men who had shown up seconds later, flashing badges, asking questions, claiming they were tracking someone dangerous. Something about them felt off. Their suits were too perfect, their smiles too tight. Real cops don't usually stalk women in the shadows of a public park. And Janelle knew this wasn't just about a missing boy anymore. This was bigger, darker. Someone was hunting him, and now she was in the middle of it. The next morning, she called in sick again and dropped Ava off with her friend Tanya. She didn't explain much, just said she had to take care of something important. With the boy's note still in her coat pocket, she sat at her tiny kitchen table and pulled out her laptop. She typed in one phrase, "House with blue door, missing foster child." Nothing came up. She added the name of their city. Still nothing. Then she tried something else. Private children's homes, group facilities, local foster providers. There were dozens. Some looked official. Others felt ... shady. She clicked through listing after listing until one photo caught her eye. It was an old building, maybe from the 1970s. Worn siding, cracked steps, but the door was unmistakable. Faded sky blue. It was listed as Bright Vale Center for Youth Development. The reviews were limited to stars. One anonymous post read, "Kids vanish here, and no one asks questions. Trust your gut." Janelle swallowed hard. She clicked the address, 43 Highland Avenue, just a 25-minute drive away. She borrowed Tanya's car and drove in silence, watching the road and her rearview mirror like someone was following her. When she arrived, her breath caught. There it was, the blue door. She parked across the street and watched for 10 minutes. No one went in. No one came out. The windows were all shut, the lawn overgrown, the mailbox empty. It didn't feel like a place kids were being helped. It felt like a place they were being hidden. She crossed the street and walked up to the door. There was no sign, no buzzer, just a rusty knocker. She knocked twice. No answer. She was about to turn and leave when the door creaked open. A pale woman in her 60s, with a stiff grey bun and a long beige cardigan, peered out. "Yes, hi," Janelle said, trying to sound calm. "I'm looking for someone." "A boy." He said he remembered this house. The woman's expression didn't change. "We haven't taken in new children for over a year, but he said this place, the house with the blue door, he said he used to live here. No children have lived here in a long time. I saw your facility online," Janelle added. "Bright Vale." The woman suddenly stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind her. "We're not open to the public," she said coldly. "Whatever you think you know, you don't. I'd appreciate if you left." But before Janelle could finish, a tall man stepped out from behind the curtains inside. He had a dark beard, thick arms, and a look that sent chills down her spine. He didn't speak. He just watched her through the glass. The woman followed Janelle's gaze. Her smile tightened. "Have a good day," she said firmly. The door closed, locked. Janelle stepped back, heart racing. Something was very, very wrong about that place. On the way back to the car, she passed a small corner store. An elderly man was sitting on a bench outside, smoking. He looked at her with tired eyes. "You going in there?" he asked. "I did," she replied. "They said they haven't had kids in a year." The man snorted. That's what they always say. She stopped. You've seen them? He nodded. I've lived across the street for 15 years. Seen lots of kids come and go. Some looked scared. Some never came back out. Janelle's stomach turned. Did you ever call the police? He flicked ash onto the sidewalk. Lady, people like me, we stop calling after a while. Cops show up, talk for 5 minutes, then leave. Nothing changes. Janelle looked back at the house. Her hands were shaking again. Do you know anyone who used to work there? She asked. The man hesitated. There was a janitor. Old guy, real quiet. Name was Charlie, I think. Liked the kids. He left a few years ago. Said he'd seen something he couldn't unsee. Do you know how to reach him? He nodded slowly and reached into his coat pocket. I got his number somewhere. He pulled out a crumpled notepad and tore off a small scrap with a number scribbled in blue ink. Try this. Tell him Earl sent you. Back at home, Janelle waited until Ava was asleep. Then she took the note and dialed the number. It rang 3 times. Then a scratchy male voice answered. Yeah, hi, Janelle said. I'm looking for Charlie. I got your number from a neighbor near Brightvale. Silence. Then, who are you? My name's Janelle. I met a boy, small, dark, curly hair, maybe 8 or 9. He said he remembered the house with the blue door. Said he wasn't safe. More silence. Then Charlie whispered, is he alive? Yes, Janelle said softly. At least, he was when I saw him last night. Charlie let out a long breath. Then you need to listen to me very carefully. Janelle sat up straighter. That place, he said, voice shaking, isn't just a home for kids. It's a front. And the man funding it, he's more powerful than you can imagine. There was a pause. Then Charlie said, the billionaire who gave you that check. His money built the walls. Janelle clutched the phone tighter. The billionaire, she repeated, her voice shaking. The one who gave me the check. Yes, Charlie said. His name is Daniel Creed. He owns Brightvale, the house with the blue door. That place exists because of his money. Janelle's stomach twisted. But he helped me. He saw me feed the boy. Why would he? You ever hear of guilt money? Charlie interrupted. That's what it was. Guilt. She was silent. I worked at Brightvale for 5 years, he continued. His voice, hoarse, started out just cleaning halls, emptying trash. Nothing special. But I saw too much. The way some of those kids came in bruised, quiet, terrified, and not just because of foster trauma. Janelle felt sick. Charlie kept going. There were secret meetings, visitors who came at night. I didn't understand it all, but I knew something dark was happening. Some kids were taken out in the middle of the night and never came back. They told us not to ask questions. What about the boy? She asked. The one I met, what does he know? Charlie lowered his voice. If he remembers that house, and he's still alive, then he knows something they want buried. Janelle's throat tightened. He told me to give you a message. He said, tell him I remember the house with the blue door, and he mentioned a blue door again, like it was important. It is, Charlie said, because that door didn't lead into the house. What? Charlie took a deep breath. There's a second blue door, behind the house. Most people never see it. It's hidden behind a shed. It leads to the basement. That's where they kept the files. That's where the real truth is. Janelle's mind was spinning. Why are you telling me this? Because someone needs to stop this. And if that boy trusted you enough to show up, to speak, then you're not just some waitress. You're someone who sees people, even the ones the world ignores. She swallowed hard. So what now? I'll meet you there. Tomorrow night, midnight. Bring the note he gave you. We find that second blue door, and then we get answers. The next day dragged on like a storm cloud, ready to burst. Janelle picked up her phone a dozen times to call someone, anyone, but who could she trust? The police. They might be part of it. Randy. He'd laugh in her face. Even Tanya would think she'd lost her mind. She looked at Ava, asleep on the couch with her favorite stuffed giraffe. The thought of her daughter ever being hurt, hidden, or silenced made her skin crawl. This wasn't just about the boy anymore. It was about every kid who'd been through that house. At 11:45 p.m., Janelle pulled up to Brightvale. Her heartbeat was a war drum in her ears. She wore black hood up, gloves on. The street was empty. No lights on in the windows. She spotted Charlie waiting near the side fence. He looked older than she expected. Graying hair, wrinkled coat, nervous eyes. You came, he said quietly. She nodded. You sure about this? He handed her a small flashlight. If they find us, we disappear. Understand?" Janelle didn't answer, just followed him through the back gate. They moved in silence through the shadows behind the house. Then Charlie pointed. There it was. The second blue door. Old, rusty, half covered by dead vines. He reached into his coat and pulled out a thin strip of metal, a lockpick. He knelt and worked silently. After a few tense seconds, the door clicked. Open, a stairwell led down into darkness. "Stay close," he whispered. They descended into the basement. The air was thick with mildew. Dust hung in the beam of the flashlight like smoke. They reached a room at the bottom, lined with filing cabinets, crates, and an old desk. A broken light bulb swung above them. Charlie opened the nearest cabinet and rifled through folders. "They never digitized this stuff," he muttered, too scared of leaks. Janelle opened a box marked "Clients." Inside were documents, photos, and names. Lots of names. She picked up a file and opened it. Her breath caught. It was the boy. There was his face, printed in black and white, labeled "Subject number 382. She read aloud. "Subject shows high memory retention. Observed in multiple test environments. Reassigned to Project Lantern." "Project what?" she asked. Charlie froze. "That's what I was afraid of." "What is it?" "Creed's private experiment. He was funding tests on children, psychological behavior, memory training, emotional suppression. The ones who didn't cooperate were relocated." Janelle's voice cracked. "Relocated where?" He looked at her. "We never found out." Suddenly, the sound of a door slamming upstairs. They froze. Footsteps. More than one. Charlie whispered, "They're here." He grabbed the folder on the boy and stuffed it into his coat. Then he turned to Janelle. "Run. No, take that file. Go to this address." He shoved a card into her hand. "She's a journalist. She's been trying to expose Creed for years. Show her this. Tell her everything." "What about you?" "I'll stall them." "Charlie," he grabbed her by the shoulders. "You helped that boy. Now help the others. Run." She turned and bolted up the stairs, heart pounding. File clutched to her chest. As she slipped out through the side gate, she heard voices yelling behind her, footsteps chasing, but she didn't stop. She ran like her life depended on it, because now it did. The journalist who'd been waiting the taxi stopped outside a rundown building on the edge of the city. Janelle jumped out, heart still racing from the escape. Her fingers clutched the folder tight under her coat, the one with the boy's file. Her mind kept flashing back to Charlie's voice. "Give this to her. She's been trying to bring him down for years." Janelle stood in front of a narrow brick building with peeling paint and flickering lights. The only name on the buzzer was M. Reyes, investigative reporting. She pressed the button. No answer. She pressed again. Longer this time. Then footsteps echoed from the hallway inside. A woman opened the door. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, wild hair pulled into a loose bun, and a notepad in one hand. "You, Janelle." Janelle blinked. "How did you? You have something for me. Charlie said you might show up. Come in." Inside was a cluttered office that looked like it hadn't seen rest in years. Walls lined with newspaper clippings, red string stretched across corkboards, file boxes stacked high. The air smelled like coffee, ink, and stubborn determination. Marisol Reyes motioned to a seat. "Let me guess. You met the boy. Then came the check. Then came the threats." Janelle sat, stunned. "How do you know?" Marisol didn't smile. "Because I'd been watching Daniel Creed's story unravel for a long time, but no one ever had proof. Until now." Janelle handed her the folder. Reyes flipped it open. Her eyes darted across the pages. Her brow furrowed. She pulled out the page labeled Project Lantern. Then she whispered, "I knew it. You knew about the experiments. Not the name. But I've been tracking missing kids connected to Creed-funded programs for over a decade. Kids from poor families, mostly. No strong guardians, easy to vanish." Janelle swallowed. "Why would he do this?" Reyes looked up. "Because power isn't enough for men like him. They want control. Control over minds, over memory, over what people can or can't say. And he started testing on the most vulnerable. But he helped me," Janelle said. "He paid off my debts, gave me a check. He even watched me for days." Reyes leaned forward. "That wasn't generosity. That was guilt. Or worse, calculation. Maybe he thought you'd stay quiet, if he made your life easier. Or maybe he just wanted to see if someone like you would protect the boy." "What do you mean?" "I think it was a test. You passed." Janelle's hands curled into fists. So I was part of some game. No, Reyes said. You became the first real threat to his silence. Janelle stared at the wall, covered in clippings. One headline read, Creed Foundation celebrates 20 years of saving children. Another said, Tech billionaire funds mental health youth initiative. Again, all lies. Suddenly, a buzz from the intercom. Reyes stood. That's my assistant. She was grabbing files, but the buzzer didn't stop. It rang 4 times, then went silent. Reyes's eyes narrowed. She moved to the window, peeled back a curtain, and froze. What is it? Janelle asked. Reyes's voice dropped. Black SUV, tinted windows. Janelle's heart jumped. Creed's people maybe, or worse. We have to go. Reyes grabbed her camera bag and the folder, then opened a drawer, pulling out a second copy machine hard drive. This has everything. We bring this to the right person. We can blow this whole thing open. Janelle hesitated. Who's the right person? Reyes turned to her. There's only one name I trust with this. Someone who's been hunting Creed longer than I have. She scribbled a name and address onto a torn envelope. Judge Helen McKinnon. She lost her nephew in one of Creed's programs. He never came back. She's been quietly collecting evidence for years. Another knock at the door. This time it wasn't a buzz. It was knuckles. Slow, deliberate. Reyes froze. They found us, she whispered. She shoved the folder and drive into Janelle's bag. Out the fire escape. Now, I'll stall them. No, I'm not leaving you. Reyes locked eyes with her. You want to save that boy. You want to stop this for good. Then run, now. Janelle turned and bolted toward the back. She slipped out into the alley, her bag pressed to her chest. Voices behind her. A door slammed open. She didn't look back. By the time she reached the train station, her lungs burned and her knees ached. She bought a ticket with cash. No phone, no trail. 2 hours later, she arrived in a quiet suburb outside the city. She found the house. Judge Helen McKinnon lived in a modest 2-story with a small garden and a security camera on the porch. Janelle rang the bell. The door opened. Cautiously, Mick, Kinnon, tall, silver-haired, with eyes like steel, looked her over. Janelle Harper, she asked. Yes. She nodded once. Come in. Inside, Janelle handed her the bag, explained everything. The boy, the diner, the folder, the check, the chase. Judge McKinnon said nothing for a long while. She just read page after page, her hand trembling only once, when she reached a photo of subject number 411. That's my nephew, she whispered. They told us he ran away. That was 13 years ago. Janelle felt tears sting her eyes. I'm so sorry. No, McKinnon said, lifting her head. You just gave me what I needed. Now we can go to the federal courts, news networks, FBI if we have to. But what about the boy? Janelle asked. He's still out there. The judge stood. Then it's time we bring him home. His real name was Elijah. 3 days later, the world changed. The story broke across every major news channel. It started small, just a leak, a single article, written by Marisol Reyes from her safe house. Then came Judge McKinnon's press conference. Photos, documents, names, the experiments, the children, Daniel Creed's secret network, exposed. By the end of the week, federal agents had raided Bright Vale. Cameras captured the second blue door, the hidden basement, boxes of files, just as Charlie had described. But Daniel Creed, he was nowhere to be found. Gone. Janelle stayed hidden with Ava in a hotel under protective watch. She didn't want fame. She didn't want to speak to the press. All she wanted was to know if the boy was safe. But no one had found him. That hurt the most. Until the knock came. It was the middle of the night. She opened the door cautiously, expecting another agent, another interview, another round of questions. Instead, it was Charlie, bruised, limping, but alive. She gasped. Charlie. He held up a hand and smiled gently. He's okay. Tears spilled down her cheeks, where Charlie stepped aside. And there he was, the boy, wearing new shoes, a warm jacket, holding a small paper bag in one hand. He looked up at her with the same quiet, careful eyes, and whispered, "Hi." She knelt, arms open. He dropped the bag and ran straight into them. His name was Elijah, not subject number 382, not the boy, not the stray Elijah. He had no birth records, no family, no trace of a life before Brightvale. But he remembered one thing. The waitress who fed him when no one else did. The woman who sat in the rain and asked for nothing in return. She's the only one who didn't look through me, he told the agents later. She saw me. Weeks passed. Daniel Creed's empire crumbled. His assets were frozen. Investigations expanded globally. It turned out Brightvale was just one of many hidden facilities. Dozens of children were found, some reunited with families, others placed in trauma care programs. And Marisol Reyes. She was nominated for a Pulitzer. One sunny afternoon, Janelle sat on a bench at the park with Ava and Elijah beside her. Elijah held a sketchbook, a new gift from his therapist, and was drawing a big tree with a blue door in its trunk. Janelle smiled. "That's beautiful, baby." He looked up. "I want to build it one day. A house inside a tree. A real home." "You will," she said softly, "and it'll have the safest door in the world." Elijah nodded, then turned serious. "Is Daniel Creed still hiding?" "They're still searching," Janelle replied, "but truth catches up, always." He didn't say anything after that, just kept drawing. A week later, an anonymous envelope arrived at the judge's office. Inside, a photo of Creed sitting on a beach in Monaco. Sunglasses on, drink in hand. On the back, someone had scrawled, "You may have slowed me down, but you didn't stop me." Judge McKinnon showed the photo to Janelle. "What do we do now?" Janelle asked. McKinnon's eyes sharpened. "We make sure the world remembers. We keep every door open. And if he ever shows his face again." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Janelle went back to work a few weeks later, not at Miller's Diner. She started at a non-profit, helping foster youth find homes. She used the check Creed gave her, not for herself, but to build a small resource center downtown, with food, beds, tutors, and counselors. The plaque on the front read, "The Elijah House, because every child deserves to be seen." People came from everywhere. Volunteers, donors, survivors. And Janelle, she just kept showing up, smiling, serving, listening, exactly as she'd always done. Late one evening, just before locking up the Elijah house, Janelle stood in the doorway, watching the sunset. Elijah came up beside her. "Did you ever think," he asked, "that helping one person could change everything?" She smiled. "No," she whispered, "but now I know. It's the only thing that ever has." The end. Final lesson. You never know who's watching when you do something kind. One act of quiet compassion can start a chain reaction that topples giants, saves lives, and brings justice to the forgotten. In a world full of noise, cruelty, and wealth used for silence, sometimes it's the woman who shares a meal that makes the loudest change of all.